So when I came in, you saw a sign where I could have gone right to Crooked Lake or left to where I showed you in the first video. As you can see on that map, I did go towards Crooked Lake, which is a lake that I haven't really explored. I'd love to go out there and see more. There's two arms to it, and I'll show you, I think, the one path getting to the second arm that I didn't end up getting all the way to, but we'll see that towards the end of this video. So once again, these are snowmobile trails that are decently maintained. This section I'm not really familiar with at all. I've gone down here once, it was a few years ago. I mean, it's elevated, this portion. Crooked Lake sits pretty high above Restoule, and there's actually a good set of waterfalls in the spring sliding down there. It is really beautiful if you walk the trail, and you can walk beside the falls and see them cascading down the rock faces. It's really nice. So there are some wet sections already, and you can see where people have made those side trails to get around the deeper pools. For the most part, this trail was easy to get through. I mean, there were wet sections. We did have a rainfall that was pretty big the night before, so I think a lot of this stuff wouldn't be there if you had a few days of really dry, warm weather. But for the most part, even the deeper pools weren't that bad. You could easily get through them. There's much deeper sections on the other side, and as you can see, it's fairly open, this trail. So you could, if you got used to this trail and you rode it a couple times, you could definitely open it up a little bit in sections. There was one section closer to the lake that was pretty flat and dry, so you could get going a little bit. You just don't know what's around the next corner, so you got to be a little bit safe. So one of the things that I didn't talk about in the first video was what you need in order to ride on Crown land with an off-road vehicle like this. One is it should be green plated, so it should be licensed as an off-road vehicle and insured when you're on Crown land. And the second thing that this bike does not come equipped with is a spark arrestor. So that is basically a metal screen that stops any sparks flying out, especially if the terrain is dry, so it doesn't start a fire. So putting those two things, getting it green plated, getting it insured, as well as getting a spark arrestor installed, would make it legal for riding in Crown land in Ontario. Most bikes, enduro bikes, usually have a spark arrestor built in. I'm surprised the YZ250fx doesn't have it. This is a 2019 model, and I think it doesn't come equipped with it because it's considered off-road competition bike, so not necessarily for trails, but for closed courses off-road. So I guess that's the rationale behind it. I did pick one up from Rocky Mountain ATV online. It's an American company. I used the Pro Moto billet. There are a couple tutorials on how to install it. It took me about an hour or so to get it all installed with all the materials. The hardest part was drilling out the rivets in the muffler, the end cap that was already installed stock. And once you got that off and had the right materials, it was pretty easy to get put back in there. And to be honest, I didn't notice that it lost any power. The sound didn't really change much. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it was a good trade-off just to have it legal and peace of mind to know that you're not going to be causing any forest fires. So if you saw me glance at that trail there, I think that's a trail to the eastern arm of Crooked Lake. If you look at a map, there's two arms that swing out there. I knew the one I could access, but I was very curious to see the other end of the lake because I've never been there. As you'll see when I turn back around after I get to the lake, I do go down that trail, which is pretty messy. But coming up here in just a minute or so, you'll see access to the one arm of Crooked Lake, which is really nice. There's a ton of driftwood, big logs that ended up at this one end. It's kind of neat to see. You don't really see that too often around here. And at this point, you're up pretty darn high. So I'm sure if I walked out into the bush in the right, which I considered, right down to the right, as you can kind of see it in there, is Lake Restoule Lake. You're up fairly high. So like I said, just a little further on past this point there's this really nice cascading waterfall that spills over from Crooked Lake into Restoule. And in the spring, you can really hear it running if you're out fishing on Restoule. Oh, soaker. So here's all the big logs I was talking about. You can see them down towards the right side of the screen, as if I glance over there. These are big old pine trees, they look like. It's pretty neat being down here and seeing them all stacked up at this one end. I guess the ice brings them down here. But this is I guess it would be the northwest tip of this lake. If you look down, when I show you here in a second, you can see this is the one arm. Now it narrows, it looks like, on a map and on satellite, and then it opens up another arm that looks identical to it on the map anyways, that goes towards the left. This end, I guess I should say, there are some depth charts I found online of this lake. I don't know how accurate they are, but it looks like this whole end is only about 20 feet deep. from the depth charts. So this is the shallow end of the lake, and where it narrows, it gets really shallow. It might even be a bit of a marshy area, and when the water's really low in the mid part of summer. But on the other end of the lake, it looks like the depth chart show that it goes really, really deep. So I'm assuming there would be some decent lake trout on that end, or on this end too, but primarily on that other end in the deeper water. I'm not sure what other species of fish are in here. I'm assuming there's some bass, maybe some pike, but this is one lake that I want to get out and fish. As you can see, the water is that stained, that coffee type water. It's pretty dark. In the shallow water, you can see down a little bit, but the visibility, I'm sure, isn't that great in these darker waters up in this area. But it's a beautiful lake. I mean, it's dead calm right now. It'd be a great lake to get out there and fish. And I know this point is very accessible. It's getting to the other arm that might be a little bit tough. Ooh, wet. Fun stuff. Gonna need a good wash today, boy. So essentially I was taking my time back so I didn't miss this trail off to the right, because I wanted to explore down and see where this took us. It looks like there are some ATV back through here in the past, but I didn't know how recent. There weren't any tire marks or anything like that, but as I soon realized, this trail hasn't been used this year at all. There's trees down and stuff overhanging quite a bit, so the GoPro got flipped back here. That's why you can't see anything where I'm going, but it is overgrown. There's not much use through here. Probably in the fall, when during hunting season, people come back here a little bit more, or if there's some guides local to the area, probably use this trail a little bit more. If you look back on the original, or the start of this video with that map, the satellite imagery of where I went, you will see that I was pretty close to reaching the end of this trail towards the tip of that lake. And with that being said, I've never been back here. I had no satellite on me. My phone wasn't getting reception, so I didn't know exactly where I was in relation to the end of that lake. So if I would have known I was that close, I would have kept going. There was a split in this road, or in this trail, that went to the right. I think that would have been the correct way to go. If I come back here in the future, I'll go down there, and I think that will take me out to the lake. This stuff though was so boggy. It looks like it's smooth and flat in those areas, but it was so deep in the mud that the back tire was just spinning and spinning and spinning, and I was barely getting any traction. And I'm not sure if it was the clutch slipping towards the end, or if it was just bogging down a little bit. But I was a little nervous about the bike breaking down back in here and having to push out. So I just turned around before I pushed on a little bit further at the end of the video. But this stuff here, you'll see it. I don't think I get much traction at all going through this stuff. And yeah, I was just worried about wrecking the bike and ruining the clutch if it was slipping. So I'll have to take a look at that this week. And but yeah, this trail just keeps going, breaking through some branches, and I'll let you guys watch to the end of the video. Unfortunately, I didn't make it to the end of the lake, but there will be next time. At least I've explored new areas and know where this trail leads to. And it does take a little bit of time to get back here, but it will be worth it in the end when I get to the lake. So all the best. If you guys want to check out another video, you can see the first part of this ride where I check out the Rainy Lake area. It's already uploaded, and then I will be uploading another one with Sand Lake Road, which is on the opposite end of Restoule. And that's a great road for riding two-wheel off-road vehicles. So all the best, guys. Have a great day.